Good afternoon and welcome on the second event of Belgaug this year. And a big thank you to Fourcast for receiving us here in this beautiful location in St. Lambrechtswolde. We already had a small demo with Jamboard, but I invite everybody to play around with it after the event during the network reception. And I'm not going to take it long, we're just going to start with the event. Our first use case will be about how to use a data lake for personalized marketing. And what it's going to be, I don't have to introduce him, it's going to be the master himself, Paul, who's going to give the presentation. Paul.
Thank you. You're putting a lot of responsibilities into my hands, Michael. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. The first session is not necessarily about G Suite. It's about data, and data is in everything, and everything is in data. But I believe it might be something relevant for you guys, for your organizations, both from an internal as well as an external customer experience perspective. So for this presentation, we focus solely on marketing and how to provide customized experiences for marketing activities. So you get to know better your customers. But basically, you can apply data into everything to get to know your internal customers, to get to know your employees better, and to serve them better. This way, your customers, your employees can be more loyal to your organizations or to your brand. And we believe that it's in this digital age where we live in, making informed decisions solely on gut feeling is just dead. You should really invest in data. That's the key message, something that we really wanted to share with you guys because it is there. Does this mean that every organization should invest into big data? Well, yes and no. We tend to compare big data.
Wait, I don't think the slides are moving.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. Let me just. I was not looking at my slides. So, like I said, so making informed decisions, and I believe now, okay, I will look once in a while back to see if the slides are coming through. But like I said, so making decisions only based on gut feeling is really dead. We really need that you really need to consider using data to basically back up your decisions that you take. So does it mean that everyone has to start doing big data? Well, we don't believe so. For us, big data is like wine. You can have very nice grapes to make your wine, but if you don't have the processes in place, well, it's just going to be vinegar at the end. And the same applies to if you are having a really nice process of making wine, but your grapes are really bad, well, you will again end up with not so very well produced wine. Okay, so we believe that you need to have the right processes, the right data, and especially also the right people within your organization that can do something with this data. And that is pretty important here throughout the story. But let's maybe just, I mean, I'm talking too high level right now. Let's just do a very small exercise to back this up. I believe most of you, or I mean, majority of you guys here in the room know Michael. I'm sorry to pick you, Michael. I didn't decide on this up front, and I need 3 volunteers to tell me something about Michael. So who? Okay, so we have Hans. And wait, just a second. So you need, yeah, too fast. So you need to identify, or you need to tell something about Michael in terms of colors, in terms of apps, or in terms of a location. Please.
He recently visited Hong Kong.
Okay, so
that's the location.
That's pretty cool. Someone else?
Blue.
Okay.
Aveve.
Okay, so Blue because he works at Aveve. Okay.
And my family name is Blau.
Oh.
that connects for sure. Okay, so we already have to. I don't see if you're seeing the picture here, but so we already know that Michael recently visited Hong Kong. There might be a reason why maybe he visited Hong Kong, and then we know that he is blue. So someone else has any input on Michael? I know, for instance, that Michael likes to ride motorcycles, so he's really a fan of motorcycles. So based on, if you see what I mean, so we have pretty much 3 different people telling 3 different things about Michael. So if we were just focusing on the Hong Kong trip, I might, from a marketing perspective, know that Michael is interested in Hong Kong, and then maybe when we have a promotion on trips to Hong Kong, provide him something related to Hong Kong, like a cheap ticket or some upgrades when doing the tour. But if I know that he likes Hong Kong, and by the way, he likes driving a bike, I can even like upsell what I'm trying to sell to him by giving him, for instance, like a free motorcycle day in Hong Kong, for instance. So you can combine 2 things together. So
You're doing great.
the point I want to make here is that everyone and everything generates data. And what we believe is that you need to find a way to collect and analyze that data, which basically provides you insights into your customers, be it internal customers or external customers, or your employees or your workforce. And basically you can tailor your data, but you need to combine the data not only with the things that you already know, because that's obvious. You can use that data in order to provide a personalized experience for Michael in this case, but also what you don't know about them. And there's tons more that you can enhance with information that you don't even know that you don't know. And this is based on the information that you collect, which provides you new insights into questions that you maybe didn't necessarily ask for, and just in the loop provides and generates even more data that you can use and to further tailor and customize and enhance the experience of your users. And this is particularly when it becomes very interesting. And data collection or data generation does not stop the moment that you finish reading a newspaper or the moment that you finish your groceries store visit. People generate data all the time, even while sleeping. So you have those people that carry on these bracelets when basically tracking the sleep, and that generates data as well. So what if you can combine all that, and you can just, because we have a camera. So it's a quite interesting thing. Now let's look at how other companies are doing it. So knowing their customer. One example, which I believe a lot of people know about, is Netflix. Who here has an account on Netflix or uses Netflix regularly? So we have quite a lot of people. When is the last time that Netflix asked you about categories or things that you actually want to watch?
Install.
Yeah, and that's about it. So the moment that you install, they ask your preferences. But what they do afterwards is they collect data based on your behavior, based on what you watch, on your preferences. They never ask again, what do you want to watch or what kind of things are interesting to you, because they try, they analyze this data, and they provide proactively information. Like for instance here, because I watch Orange is the New Black, I get the recommendation that maybe House of Cards could be interesting. Forward.
Or the L word.
Oh, yeah.
Watch.
Okay, so this is based on the data that Netflix has. Okay, so it's not combining that data with external or whatever. What is interesting though is how to really get to know your customers. And one concrete example of this is Spotify. I'm not going to ask again who has Spotify, because probably all of you will or most of you will know it. But basically, Spotify has very nice algorithms, which, by the way, run completely on the Google Cloud, which is an interesting fact. But they have very powerful algorithms combined with machine learning, and they can really try to predict what kind of music could be interesting to you and proactively give you that information. And up to this point, nothing is different. I mean, from Netflix, what I just showed there is they have their own data and they provide personalized experience based on that. But what Spotify also has is it gives you the ability to get or to provide them insights on the context when you're listening to those types of music that you're listening to. For instance, I can link my Runkeeper. I don't run a lot, but things like Nielsen, etc. But what I do is I drive a lot, and I linked my Spotify account to my Waze. And so what Spotify does, it even recommends smarter music when I'm driving, because it knows that I like dance music when I'm driving, and I like more calm music when I'm at home. And now it has the content because I linked my Waze. So Spotify knows when I'm driving and listening to Spotify. So just combining this really gives another horizon, another perspective, which again generates even more data, and then provides me an even better customized experience, which results in me being loyal to the brand and to the company. Now let's look at a concrete example here in Belgium. So we have quite a lot of retail stores that have loyalty cards. I believe all of them have loyalty cards. And so based on those loyalty cards, this company managed to see, okay, this is this person is a cat person. They buy a lot of cat food or cat stuff in the store. So the next time I'm going to visit the store, the website on the store, I get a personalized experience on that on the website. I even get personalized email marketing on the website. But imagine, so up to now it's just cat information, so the siloed data that the company has. But imagine if we can just very easily combine that data with social data. The company could have known that, for instance, this person also has horses or likes horses, and they just bought a dog. So you can even further enhance and personalize the experience at the right time, in real time for that person, and give much more personalized information for that consumer. And so we're targeting here the retail and the external and marketing activities, but it can be applied to actually any type of experience that you want to provide, both internally, for instance, your customer service center or your customers. And yeah, so in an ideal world, you have all this data. You also have the people that know what to do about it, and they continuously turn in loop and provide new insights and enhance your company. But then, well, who has time for this? So processing big data, millions of records, petabytes of data is not an easy task. And this is where we believe Google Cloud really has an answer to those questions, to make it very easily to tap into whatever resource that you have and create your own data lake as a company. To give you more insights on how we do this as companies, that you start with your internal, so you need to have, remember the strong foundation. So you need to have the right grapes and the right processes in place and the right people in order to understand your own data first. And start from there. It's pretty easy because it can be CRM data. It can be even like if we look at G Suite Enterprise, you can link your full email account, data to BigQuery directly and get insights from that data. If your goal is to reduce the amount of emails that your company is sending, well, you can get quite a lot of insights from that data, combine it with, I don't know, like things like surveys that you send to the people, the video calls that you're doing within the company, and etc., and really change the way your company is moving forward. And then comes everything to enhance it. When we talk about retail, for instance, if I have weather data or traffic data, I could very easily combine that with sales or production information and optimize my entire production system within companies. Or I can, with, for instance, Google Trends, I can really tap into things like, for instance, the fidget spinner. When it came out, I can proactively do something within my company so I can get to know and really get closer to the customers. Again, social data is something that we believe is very powerful to really getting to know what you don't know necessarily, because not everyone is always communicating, not every customer is always communicating directly to you as a company. Capturing this data and make it make it available to you guys internally can further increase this. And the end goal is to combine both internal data, public data, and social media data to enrich that with insights, with things like artificial intelligence, so you can provide smart services to your customers. What once was just looking back at the retail space, what once was like posters hanging into outside or newspapers or places where everyone was targeted the same way. Companies now have the possibility very easily to really have personalized experiences for every single customer out there. It's fairly easy to get started. So that was the message that I had for you. Any questions from you?
About GDPR and big data, is it not a problem? It's still becoming a problem? Or?
It's not necessarily becoming a problem. It's more like a clarity. Up to now, so companies were like not free, but they could do almost everything without well-defined processes. With GDPR coming into place, we have a framework on which we can work on. So with companies where we are working on today to provide this type of services, we have for every single story of that personalized experience that we are trying to bring, we have the scopes that we need to define, and the different things like giving consent or giving the ability for the users to always retract that information. These are things which are now pretty much in a framework, which makes it easier. But again, yeah, of course, so if you want to link your social media accounts, like for instance a retail store, you need to give that consent, but you also need to provide some things which are into the GDPR space there. Yeah. It's not becoming more difficult. You just need to be aware of the things that every company needs to take into account. When it comes to the infrastructure part of things and the products that we are using to build those type of solutions, so from there, and so Google is fully covered and committed to be compliant by March when it comes into effect.
The contracts, I mean, both towards partners and customers have been as well to include links towards GDPR regulations.
Yeah,
so we're pretty early. Forget the fact that it's only it's April next year.
I think
right?
it's it was pushed back.
Yeah.
What is interesting though, if that is a topic which is of your interest, Google is hosting an event on GDPR specifically, I believe next week. Or the, So might be interesting to join that session. So it's a pretty big audience which will be there.
Yeah. If you're not yet bored about GDPR type of events, maybe can you give some examples about, because you briefly mentioned G Suite factor linking that type of data to the data warehouse, BigQuery. Can you give some concrete examples of that?
You mean in terms of linking Gmail to BigQuery or in general data?
Yeah, the Gmail thing. So what type of output can you get from there? That's
well, that is really depending on what you're trying to achieve. So this is why we say, okay, you don't have to start with big data because it's just fancy or everyone, or we think everyone is doing it. You really need to have a goal in mind. So for instance, if your end goal is to reduce the amount of emails within an organization, what you could do is if you link your Gmail to BigQuery, you really have a bunch of information that you can query on and detect trends.
We've got one customer that really wants to know, for example, what are the topics that we are receiving in the mailbox of support. So you can log those tickets in Zendesk, but also you can integrate with Gmail, copy or take Gmail data, put it in BigQuery, and apply your machine learning or cloud algorithms there to really find out, okay, what are we spending or losing time on questions that customers have, to then, for example, optimize your FAQ or do a campaign to get more information out there.
Yeah.
You can even get sentiment analysis on top of it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, indeed, that's a very good example indeed of the one customer asked us, how can we automate a lot of tasks from customer support? So like I believe 70% of the questions could just be answered through a bot, which is then, by the way, also voice activated. So you can just talk to like a Google Home device and get your answers on topics specifically on support. So these are the trends that you can detect. Again, with the machine learning APIs of Google, you have things like sentiment analysis, NLP, so natural language processing. So it really gives you this these capabilities. But that's what I'm saying. So you need to have this end goal in mind, or what you're trying to achieve, and then the data is there. It makes it very easy. Now, I didn't even talk about things like connecting, for instance, your Google Analytics 360 to understand what is the behavior. You already have this in analytics, but you can, if you link that with your internal data, you can get even more insights on what happens really on your websites or the applications that you're tracking with Analytics 360, or things like DoubleClick. And I mean, it's quite broad in terms of endpoints that you can.
Well, if those are the results, then that enterprise queue is pretty cheap.
It's not us.
Sorry.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, so then I leave the floor to Thomas, who will talk about going out of office.
Okay, so thank you. I think in contrary to Alan, I should introduce myself. So I'm Thomas. I'm one of the change managers here inside of Fourcast. And together with Julie over there and Jeremy, we did the Aveve implementation of G Suite. Okay. Today I'm going to talk about out of office. Just to get things straight, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to give a tips and tricks session about how to create your out of office in your Gmail. It's going to be something else. I'm going to tell you something about the concept of out of office that we really implemented in Aveve, in the story of the G Suite implementation there. So Aveve, who don't know Aveve, Aveve on 10 people on the street, 9 of the 10 will know. Why not? It's not working.
Sorry. So Chromecast, who is changing. Is it there? Is it here? There. Connections are pretty بالنسبة لمحمد هيوز We have a Chromecast issue. Sorry, guys. Sorry to using it without just giving it just give it I'm going to do a trick for you guys here. Wat kan je doen? Is niet. Als het schulden. Ja, dat gaat weer niks op. Zal ik die doen?
Goed. Of daar proberen.
Ja, dat is. We gaan het anders doen.
Chrome werkt niet op netwerk. Fourcast.
about lessons we've learned in this Aveve project. First of all, yeah, the second one is very important, of course, but the first one is communicate clearly from the start. I think in Aveve maybe we should have communicated earlier that we were having an out-of-office vision. We were going Google all the way. Okay, if you're communicating this in a later stadium, the change is going to be much harder. So from the beginning, the vision has to be on point. Second one, remove faster. So that's also a thing. So we started migrating organizations to Google Drive starting from July 2016. It ended in December. And I think we started removing Office in the beginning of November. Really actively started removing this in November. And I think this was quite too late, especially for the organizations who were migrated in July, August, and September. They were working for months with G Suite and Microsoft Office still available for them, and we saw there that the change that had, we needed some extra change management there to get the gap filled in. Involve the Google ambassadors to challenge the people, of course. Ambassadors are very useful for having feedback on the field, but also in this case, people just giving little notes, little remarks when an ambassador is moving around on the floor and sees that an Excel is still open with a colleague, just giving little remark, hey, why is Excel open? Using Sheets. Huh? That's something we're doing. Jeremy, Julian, and I, we do that all the time, but we need our ambassador to give these little tips, these little remarks. Okay? Very important as well. Fourth one, involve internal application experts because they know the best how to tackle the integration points. And we started doing this, I think, too late in Aveve. It took us a long time to find the right people in the right time. Give time to the internal application experts to recreate the integration points. So if we start earlier, we can give them more time because we know they need a lot of time to change an Office integration to a G Suite integration with applications. And last thing, of course, talk to these external suppliers from the start. Just map all the applications that are at this moment at the start integrating with Office, and just ask what are these integration points? How can we tackle them? Where are APIs available, etc., etc. Okay. So thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I think we do have some time left to tackle some questions. Yeah.
And I would like to know what are the benefits that you found after migrating.
Okay, so the biggest advantages, I think, and I don't want to go too high level. First of all, we had 2 million euros of saving by just transforming business processes, by using Google Forms, by using letting people share documents with each another. So we did a really very high amount of savings. But I think the most important thing of all was that we managed to change the culture a little bit. As in the beginning of the transformation track, we started in January this year. We had to go to the people. We had to do transformation workshops. We had to really pull the ideas from the people. But at the end of the project, so in August, people were coming to us with questions like, "I'm doing this like this. I'm doing this process on this way today, but I've got the gut feeling that it's not the right way to do this." So just having the culture change, people come to us questioning their way of working today. I think that was one of the biggest improvements, one of the biggest advantages that G Suite had in this company. Okay. Another question? I think I have to give the floor to
There's a small break before.
Yeah, I think
Let's do a 10-minute break. and then we'll continue with the last session of Parliament.
Zit je daarin? Nu is er terug geluid omdat ik dit geluid heb opgezet.
We weten niet, maar is al beter. Stel er in beeld, als je dat liever niet zijn. Sorry. Ja, het geluid staat af, maar babbel aan.
Niet meer.
Ja, ze hebben gevraagd om de laatste nog uit te studeren. Denk je dat de knoppen daarnaast ligt? Kan eens testen.
Okay. I'm a colleague of Thomas. Today I want to talk to you about three topics that are related. The first one is about internal communication. The second one is about the concept of the social intranet. About specific product, which is Lumapps. And the project we did implementing Lumapps at our customer WGK Limburg with Chris, who's sitting right there. So that's the topic for today. The thing that unites everyone here, it's Google, G Suite. So my first question is, and please stand up, who uses G Suite? Everyone's energized after the break. Okay, Julie, you can stand up. Okay, remain standing. That was the first question. I only have three questions. Okay, the second one, for internal communication purposes.
Don't have to jump up.
I would not recommend jumping, but you can do whatever you want.
But the other ones have to sit down or not?
The other ones can sit down if you're not using it for internal communication. Okay. Okay. This one, yes. Third and last question: who is using some of the G Suite tools to build or to deploy an intranet for their employees? Intranet. Okay, so some of you do use some tools and others don't. One can sit down. Okay, so everybody's energized now. Okay, I'm going to walk you through a little story here. So we heard a lot of talk about collaboration, about productivity, which are the typical that we use with G Suite. Your magic. Sorry. But the term internal communication or corporate internal communication is one that I hear a little bit less in context of G Suite, but that's what we're going to talk about today. And typically, internal communication is something which companies and big corporates do not invest a lot of money in. To external stuff, marketing stuff, technology stuff. And intranets, communicating with your employees, is something which doesn't get as much funding as external tools and platforms. So typically, it's something which, where as an employee, you feel the pain when it goes wrong. Okay, and I'm just gonna go over a couple of things that can go wrong with internal communication. This image, finding the needle in the haystack. I see some people nodding. It applies to almost any company. Why? You have a shitload of information. You have so many tools. You have so many documents, different formats. So many new information is created every day. Some of which is relevant for you, others not. And then finding that one piece of information, whatever the technology you're using, will be difficult for most companies. So getting access to that little small piece of information you need, it's usually quite hard. Okay. Second pain, which I hope you recognize, is twins or triplets or quadruplets, which hints at the fact that when people find something they want and they need, what they do, they take a copy and store it somewhere. Next month, you need that same document. You say, okay, I saved it to my drive or whatever. I printed it. If you're really old school. But information gets duplicated. Even more bits of information get duplicated and get recommunicated in different forms. You take a bit from a procedure. What do you need to do in case of fire? You put it in an email. You send an email out using Gmail. Good for you. You send it to all your employees, and this is the procedure. At that point, the information is dead, it's outdated, it is in your mail. If you're lucky, and there's a fire or somebody talks about procedures, they will remember, that's right, somebody sent me what was the guy's name? Armin Fire. Okay, Google search works perfect. I found the email. What you don't know is that the procedure has been changed in the meantime. It's not exit A, it's exit B, and if you use exit A, you'll be dead. So, hence you need the internet. Okay, we'll get to that point. Duplicate information. Third pain. Who was born after 1985? After. Okay. For those people who recognize the image. Nobody. Okay. For the other people who recognize the picture, okay, don't be ashamed. It's a great movie. It's 3 great movies. Oh, the second one was not good. It's Back to the Future. Okay, I'm just hinting at the fact that you have lots of information, you have lots of documents. If you're lucky, they're all stored in a drive or team drive or whatever. But sometimes you're not sure if it's still relevant. And you have access to documents, but they're outdated. You have no way to find out if it's the latest version and if you're using the right procedure. So what do? You don't use the document, you call someone or you ask your colleagues. Third pain point. We put everything somewhere, it's all there, go find it. But, or we communicate everything to everyone. Every day you get 5 corporate emails saying, okay, watch out for this, don't forget to do that. By the way, we changed the menu. Why? Because we send stuff to everyone. You're not everyone, you're you. You just need this, you don't need that. Okay, so talk to now. Okay. What happens when you try to shove an elephant into a car? It will hurt the car, it will hurt the elephant, and it won't work. Okay. What does this mean for communication purposes? Companies and divisions within companies, they typically manage documents. They don't manage information. For example, your car policy. It's a document. It may be a 20-page document if you're really unlucky. This document in itself usually gets stored somewhere or published or communicated, put on internet, put on Google site. But this document will not help me in my case. What I want is to be able to look up on my mobile phone when I have a problem with my car. Is this allowed? Can I go into the garage and get my windshield fixed if there's a little scratch in it? I just need this bit of information. I don't need your 20-page PDF document. Okay, so the document is not adapted to the medium and in general to the mobility that we have gotten used to. Last pain point. Everyone knows this guy. Internal communication, corporate communication, a lot of the times remains top-down, meaning it's the company who's talking to you employees. Okay, which means, okay, guys, here's a new procedure. As of now, this is what you do when you talk to customers. This is a new procedure. So it's top-down communication. It's just do it. There's no social interaction. There is no explaining why. There is no conversation that you start. It's just pushing information down people's throats. Whether it's an email or Google site or documents, doesn't matter. Okay, so these are a couple of things that regularly go wrong with corporate communication. So, but we're lucky, right? We have G Suite. Okay, we have so many tools to communicate. Sometimes it's hard choosing which one we're going to use. But it also means that your information is scattered across these tools, which also means sometimes it's difficult to find things or to know which strategy you have to use, and which strategy you have to use to reach people. Do I send a message on Hangouts to the group, or do I write an email, or do they publish it on a Google site, even though it's not definitive? What do? You have so many options. Okay? Multiple people in a company using these tools, and they're probably using different strategies. I don't know if Niels is right there. Niels is the guy who does everything through Hangouts. Okay, there's other people who send mails. I'm the destination, I'm the people that they communicate to, so I have to know in function of who is trying to communicate with me, where does the information lie, where do I find it back when I need it. Okay, so what we're but my conclusion is that you need some glue to bring all this information together and to give you an easy access point to wherever the information resides. Okay. Which brings us to the concept of social intranet. So imagine if you have something which brings all typical intranet features together. Yes, intranet as top-down communication channel, but also bottom-up. Let's employees communicate. The intranet as applications that you're using to other apps that you use. Intranet as a place where information is pushed to you, but also where you can pull information at the time you need it. Okay? Not just top-down communication, but also and sharing stuff which they care about. Social intranet is, of course, as visual as possible and as short as possible. Remember the 20-page card policy. That's not something you would want to find on that new type of intranet. Of course, your intranet should work on any device. Laptop, tablet, mobile phone, whatever you can imagine. Now, one of the strongest things that you need is the personalization. If you remember, okay, imagine there's 10 emails or 20 emails a day. 2 of those only interest me. I'm happy if I only get those 2. Okay? But to do that, you need to know, you need to have a publication mechanism which targets those specific users. Okay? Here it goes. And a good casting device. Julie, do you know what I need to do here? Someone? And the Chromecast switched to another Wi-Fi for some reason. So that was the concept of the social intranet. What I want to show you right now is a product which is called Lumapps. Who has heard of the product before? Anyone? Okay, most of you who have used it or implemented it, or okay. So some of you know what it is. Okay. So this is basically an application which is recommended by Google as the only social intranet recommended by Google, which sits on top of your G Suite tools, especially to be integrated as easily as possible with your calendar and your emails. And so it brings, it connects, of course, with G Suite and Google for authentication, but it also gives you access, for example, through the search function to all your documents in Drive. It gives you access to your calendar, to your emails, to the contact details of the employees in your organization. And then on the other hand, it gives you the portal function, so access any business application inside or outside your domain. It gives you news feeds, possibility to create wikis or job boards or product information repositories. It automatically creates an organization chart based on your Google Accounts directory, and allows you to plug in that contact information in any page that you're making on Intranet. For example, if you have a page about parental leave, and you want to put the contact details from the HR department to take care of this topic, then you can just plug in a widget there which automatically displays the people from HR team. Okay. Functionality for your employees as a CMS, a content management system. Lumapps provides out-of-the-box responsive design, which means your intranet will automatically adapt itself and work perfectly across any device, any screen resolution. And it can handle multilingual intranets in a very, very simple way. It offers search both across your intranet content and your G Suite content. So whether the information about what can you do with your car is stored as a page on intranet or a document in Drive or whatever, you can find everything back with that one single search function. So which is the promise of your intranet as a one-stop shop for everything which is behind. Profiling is very important. You can target content, bits and pieces on every page or an entire subsite by making it visible for a specific group of users in your organization. That group of users can easily be defined as a Google group, as a Google Accounts directory. So it reuses the way you shape your organization, and you can target information to specific groups or to everyone or groups. Lumapps is designed to be a non-technical tool. So it's not made for IT people managing your internet. It's meant to be managed by your communication team or whoever in the organization knows how to write a bit and work with. That's why there's a lot of customization possible without having based and made for Google. It integrates with Google Analytics, and in one of the coming updates will also offer analytics within your content management system itself, so that you get your basic insights without even having to go what the product offers. Let's see. The experience rooms. Jamboard. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples, example sites from actual customers, companies, so they're French examples. This one is from Etam, with Lumapps. So you see it's very visual, it's very low on text. You have a couple of news stories, you have access to events, and at the top you see something they chose to put there. It's like a job board, so obviously because it was very important to them, probably because there's a high turnover in the company, so they want the internal open jobs to be very visible. So there you see they chose for a patchwork design, very visual. Sequoia. Sorry, Veolia. It's completely different design, much lighter. Both are in line with their branding guidelines. They made different choices. Here they use video. It's much lighter. They put the focus on specific events, download documents. So it looks like a completely different intranet. In fact, it looks like any website. Okay. So just to give you an example visually what you can do. This is another one from Aveve, where you can already see a bit more integration with G Suite. Of course, you have access to the tools here, access to documents in Google Drive. This is actually a corporate homepage which links to different sub-sites which were created within the group. Access to communities. We'll go into the features in a bit. Just to give you an idea that whatever design, whatever you want to make with it, you can do it, and you can do it quite easily without being an expert. Okay, who is not using G Suite for their internet? Who has some kind of other solution in place? Okay, any tools? What kind of technology are you using? What kind of platform?
Drupal.
Drupal, okay. Oh, okay, don't know that one. Any other? Okay. So when we look at CMS systems and sites or intranets that we build, for us, it's really finding a balance between how many features do you need, and as a result, what kind of complexity can you handle. And then at the other side, how easy do you want your solution to be? Using your intranet, but also easy for the people who are contributing or using the CMS. So what I'm going to show you, it's not scientific at all, it's just gut feeling. So imagine you're using SharePoint. Companies are using SharePoint. SharePoint has so many features and so complex that you actually need a bunch of SharePoint administrators to set up things for you, which means you need to wait, you need to get your ticket ID, etc. You as a business, you can just quickly set up your site, add some documents, start sharing and collaborating or creating your intranet. So the price you pay for the complexity and the features, you lose it in ease and efficiency of communication. But it has a ton of features. Things like WordPress, Drupal, they're a bit more accessible. They're also filled with features, except that you probably use plugins in the marketplace to gather the functionality that you need and to create, for example, your own. You move up a bit in the ease of use. The people who are using Google tools, for example, you can, of course, build an intranet on Google Sites. We can create one for ourselves. Why? Because it's quick, it's easy, it looks good, okay, and it integrates with plenty of other Google tools. But on the feature scale, especially the new Google Sites, you will probably be missing some of the old functionality, and then still you won't have everything that you need to recreate an engaging social intranet. So what else do we have? Google Plus. Everyone's using Google Plus here probably internally for Belgaug or whatever. So that brings you the social component, posting stuff, sharing, interacting, commenting, liking, whatever you want. But it can be pretty chaotic. Can sometimes feel not very corporate. Not everybody's probably engaged, and also it's disconnected from the other things that you want to do in internal communications. It's just the social part. So, drum roll. This is where we see Lumapps, of course. Lumapps as a product brings the good stuff from Google together. It integrates with your G Suite tools. It adds some more functionality that you miss either in Google Sites or in Google Plus. Packages them together in a super easy CMS. And is also slowly moving up in the amount of features, the amount of maturity that you need to really compete with companies that are, for example, in SharePoint world, who expect certain things. Okay? But while remaining very easy and efficient, meaning you don't have to go into CSS, you don't have to be a techie, you don't have to work at IT to set up your own functionality. Admin panel where you put everything. So for us, that's kind of the sweet spot, and we also see them moving here in this direction, making it easier and adding more features that you may expect if you want someone with your. Okay. Third part was we would like to present you the way we implemented Lumapps at WGK Limburg. Case right now. Numbers, yeah. So it's about 1,900 people in total. So it's just Limburg, just one province, of which 1,600 nurses, meaning 1,600 cars, which is probably what you know about the Aveve. It's that cute white car. Oh. It's just gone.
Should we go and get Balm?
Hmm?
Should we go and get Balm? Or?
I'll try just waiting for the cast device. Okay, it should work now. Local divisions, so spread around the province of Limburg, who switched to drive in March.
February
February
24th.
Yeah. And for which we then started this intranet project a couple of months later. So, why did WGK Limburg want an intranet? It's pretty much the same reasons that we saw before. So email overhead, lots of people send emails, push information or to get answers to their questions. Same thing for phone calls. If you don't find it in a 20-page document, or if you just don't want to look, you just want to talk to that lovely person from HR, you call her. Which means that person is on the phone all the time, answering the same questions every day. Not being able to find information, even though you have Google Drive, having duplicated and outdated content, and then quite importantly as well, knowing who is who. People were talking to other people for years, but not knowing who the person was behind the voice at the phone. So that's something that was quite easy that we could help remedy. So what did we do then? I'll just walk you very quickly through the things we implemented and how we did it. I don't know if this is the image you have of the WGK, but this is what came out of our analysis. We did 2 weeks of interviews with many people within the organization, and we created something which is called personas, which is like an aggregate of typical users with a face, with a name, something you could stick on the wall, and something that you can use during your development project or design project or change project. So this was our analysis. These were the different profiles that were going to be using our internet. We use this, for example, very simple way. We created test accounts with these people, with their specific access rights, with their specific needs, so we could see what the internet looked like when this kind of person logged on. What we also did, and maybe you saw it there on one of the posters there for the Kruisweg, is we use them in our change communication. Okay, so this is Zoe, which is called Vanessa there. Is she actually called Vanessa? She's called Vanessa. Okay, so that's an actual nurse. We use these ideas and personas to help us, to inspire us for the change communication, in order to be sure what kind of message, one single message, that we were going to give to this person when launching the new internet. So we made a series of these posters for 4 different profiles in order to help put the internet in the market. Okay. Step 1. Step 2. It's the name, the URL, and the logo. The name already existed before, Kruisweg, which was an empty box. It was literally a tile on their tablet, but with nothing behind it. Why? Because they were dreaming for years about having an internet. They just didn't get started. So we reused the name. We had a new logo design where you see the 3 arrows actually mean that everything points to Kruisweg, new internet, being your one-stop shop for everything you need. Communicating, getting answers to your questions, finding out how to contact your colleagues, everything points to Kruisweg. Kruis, of course, being a reference to it. Very simple name, but okay. For the homepage, of course, we created 3 different versions. One for use on desktop. So remember, there's 300 people sitting behind a PC or laptop. But we also found out, maybe a bit later in the process, that we needed to customize this a little bit for the tablet version. To have bigger clickable zones to remove some information. To have a lighter version. And you automatically get the responsive version. So the mobile version is nothing you have to do anything for. It's just automatically adapted because you have a smaller screen resolution. Okay. So we chose to put the search bar quite prominent and visible on top because it should become the main way to find information. We don't want people to think about, okay, where in the menu will I find this? Just search it and put your faith in search and machine learning, which is behind it, to find what you need. And if you don't, then we need to tweak document names, tags, whatever. But we want people just to go there and search. Simple as possible. I'll go over the different building blocks in a minute. Okay. Search function. So as I said, Lumapps out of the box offers you search within pages you create on your intranet, but also shows you documents that you have access to in Drive. It shows you users based on your search terms. So, for example, if I tapped Personalised, for example, and some people are working in a department which is called Personalised, then I will find back their contact details with their picture here. So it searches across the whole universe of documents and information that you have access to, including communities on Lumapps. And one of the nice bits as well is if you search for something, you click on, for example, this page, that's Ouderschapsverlof, then you'll see a little pop-up at the bottom asking you, okay, is this the information you were looking for? And you just confirm yes or you ignore it. If you confirm, then you're feeding the machine learning algorithm which is behind it to say, okay, this looks relevant. If many people do this, it builds up the relevance of this page and it will float up in your search results. That's a nice feature. Okay, what else did we do? We talked about intranet as a portal, a gateway to whatever you need to do your job. So, of course, together with the help of Chris from Lucia Legras, we inventoried and added all business applications, but also Google Forms, documents, external websites, internal applications, which you access from web browser, and we push them into a list of favorites, which is not the same for everyone, which is highly personalized. So, so you can, from the administration panel, you can decide who sees which shortcuts in his list of applications, and you can also define if they are removable or not. So if you want to make sure that everyone always finds the application to take to request a holiday or to do some administration, push it in their favorites and not allow them to unfavorite it, for example. But users can also add their own applications, but it's personalized. Okay. Of course, we have a news feed. Are you?
Because I yelled at my it's broken now.
News now? News or apps and forms?
Yes.
What is new? Apps and forms?
News. Sorry. Ik vind het niet meer. Ik ben er terug.
So we have the news flow, where you see you have a system of tags which indicates what kind of information it is, or who it's what kind of information it is. And the good thing here is that you can, for each article, you can define which user group should see this, or for which user group this article should be highlighted at the top and be made more visual. So which means that my newsfeed will not be the same as Chris's newsfeed, or somebody at the reception will maybe not have the same articles highlighted, and somebody who's actually a nurse and on the road all the time. For example, if you have updates about some kind of nursing protocol, which all your nurses should know, but the guy who's doing the support and IT help doesn't care about, then you're not pushing that news. He will not see it. He will not waste time reading it. Okay. So very simple functionality, but it's something which is quite handy. Of course, intranet is also a repository of information, not of documents, but of information, and it's that information which is relevant to the user. Meaning, if you're a nurse and you're on the road all the time, what do you care about? Your car. So, going to the keuring, how you say it in English? Getting your tires changed. What do you do when you have a star in your front windshield, that kind of stuff. Or what do you do when you have an accident on the job? What if you break something at your patient's house, for example? So we focused on not everything, but on the information which is relevant to our Vanessa or Zoe, etc. These are very simple pages. Okay, so we talked about the Google integration, the integration with G Suite, which means all your users on your G Suite domain are automatically visible and searchable in this kind of who's who user directory, where if they put, of course, their profile picture, you see the face behind the person. You also get all the contact details. In fact, everything you add on that about that person in your Google Accounts directory can be visualized here, if you choose to do so. And if you choose to do so, can also be updated by the user themselves. Not going to the Google profile, not going to come or whatever. Just do it straight from the interface here. So imagine if we do a search for Chris, and we get this guy, where you see his contact details. Please don't look at his mobile phone. It's PII, obviously identifying information. There you see we also added some custom fields like calling name, roepnaam, a bio field, for example, which are not standard fields, but which help users to find back other users using search function. Special surprise. Good. It's Chris's birthday, so everyone, happy birthday. Which we didn't add in the Google account directory, I think. Happy birthday. Okay, something to think about. So happy birthday. So I talked about that you can create a repository for any type of content. For example, you can create a job board, so open job positions with detailed pages. You can also create a product inventory. You can add your process documentation there. You can make something structured, something searchable, something tagged, something personalized for whatever content that you in your company need. So these are just simple examples. Okay. Also, of course, all the things I showed you, like the news and the pages, the HR job board, it's not managed by the communication team. So it's completely decentralized, meaning it's HR who manages the people who take care of your car, administration, etc., who manage the pages about your car. So it's decentralized. So the last part I want to talk about is like the alternative to Google Plus, which you are all using, which is communities integrated into your intranet environment. So why would you do that? What do you think is an advantage of doing this?
To get feedback and measure the efficiency of the content we push. To get feedback and measure the efficiency of the content we push to the data.
Yeah, also. Also, if your communities work well, it drives traffic. So people come here, chance to get them to see what you also want them to see, meaning they come to your homepage, and there's a higher chance that they see the important message about the audit which is going on in your company. For example. So your communities, they have a much higher frequency of updates of information. They work well. So it adds a little traction to the use of your intranet. Same place. It's not something separate. It's all associated with the same brand or same site. So that's one advantage. Yeah, maybe we created different communities. So I talked about the 28 locations of the WGK Limburg. So each of these has its own digital community here. But we also created communities of specialists who weren't seeing each other face to face. So because in every location you have a specialist for diabetes or another kind of disease. So they have the same role, but they don't work in the same team. So we created communities to unite them. We did the same thing for everybody who has a kind of manager role. And then we also created one community where everyone of the whole company can join and which is less work focused. It can be anything to I'm offering tickets, I need a babysitter, somebody's birthday, somebody has become a grandmother. 3 things we learned. Well, we learned many things, but the first one that I want to talk about is about the weakest link in the chain. So you could look at this kind of project and just see the product, the tool. Okay, we're implementing Lumapps. We need to design, we need to set up content types, configure everything up and ready to go. And it will be usable because the product is great and it works. That's not the case. In fact, we had to look at the whole chain leading up to somebody using a device and accessing that great internet. And we found out that we didn't pay enough attention to the previous steps in the chain. For example, your Wi-Fi or 3G connection, which is not perfect everywhere, or which is used at the same time when everybody comes to the central location. There's maybe not enough bandwidth and people complain about performance. We also didn't take into account the hardware itself. So the nurses were using tablets to do their patient administration to patients. But these tablets are not really last generation. So the hardware is not the fastest that there is. Combine this with some bandwidth issues, then you don't get the full experience of this great product that you have. And what is the weakest link in the chain? In any chain where you have technology? It's people. It's people. So we did the interviews to see what kind of profiles we have, and we identified the debate. So people, technophobia, or people who just don't want to be working with technology, they want to be working with people. And we probably underestimated that aspect, okay? Which also impacts, of course, your attraction and your adoption of the internet, which means you need to put more effort in change. And we focus, yeah. So there, the lesson learned is just don't look at the product and what you're doing technically, but look at the whole chain, people plus technology, okay? Second lesson learned, it's sometimes you have to take baby steps. Maybe in the beginning of the project, we thought it was going to be quick and not dirty. But in fact, we now realize that what we were changing a lot of things. We were not just changing the technology, we were creating an intranet. There wasn't an intranet before, so it's not a migration. You start creating the concept of an intranet, which means people start debating, okay, what is it? Where should they go, the information? What does this mean for Google Drive, for emails? What does this mean for all the information that I have on paper that I give to my new nurses to start? So you're really touching the way people manage information, the way they use their previous tools. We were just implementing them. So that's a huge change. What we're also doing is, if you remember, it's not the communication team only who manages the internet, it's every silo within the organization. So the people from IT, the people from HR department, the people who are the specialists on the nursing domains, they suddenly became content managers. We had to make them content managers because we had to build it from zero to something which is usable, MVP. So there was a lot of content to be processed, a lot of content to be written, to be analyzed, and we put this in the hands of people who are not necessarily used to doing this. So big organizational change as well. And yeah, one of the other changes was that we were freshly implemented Google Drive, etc. But maybe the change wasn't anchored very well, and so people had to still master this part before they started to master the internet that we were building. So there were a lot of changes going on, which we had to bring from here to here in a very fast time, working on different tracks. So that was the easiest part. Okay, third lesson. All roads should lead to the care swap. Or what is the reality? It's kind of like what Thomas said at Aveve. if you still have that big open road, which is called Microsoft Office, for example, you should not use it. It's big. I did it before. Okay? Same thing goes if you're not talking about Office. The other communication flows. I've got Hangouts. I've got email. I can continue to send emails to everyone in the company every day. Nobody says anything about it. I can send newsletters. I can print my documents. I can put stuff on the wall. I can create my own Google sites, whatever. So there's plenty of alternatives because the tools are there, and maybe because there wasn't, we didn't communicate explicitly that strategy, that communication strategy. How are we going to use all these new tools? Again, lesson learned. For this, but how can you avoid this? It's like remove sooner, like you said. It's closing these roads as soon as possible and making it explicit. No, you got to stop sending these mails. React to every mail. No, you can't send these types of newsletter anymore. You're going to use your community. That's what we're replacing this newsletter with the community. So to take away the alternatives, to show them there's a better and more integrated way. And that's the kind of change that we still have to manage a little bit for the coming months. But those are my 3 lessons learned from this project. So that concludes the presentation. Anyone have any questions or remarks or ideas for me or for Chris, who's here?
Was there content moved from the original intranet to this one? No, there was none. I thought you said on the end there was another one.
Something, but it wasn't full internet. So there was content on different places.
Yeah.
But there, I think the main lesson is that if you're going to use Lumapps, you can't just go copy pasting stuff. Not because it's technically impossible, because it doesn't make sense from a communication point of view. If you remember the car policy document, yeah, we can integrate. We can put a link to the car policy. Are you helping people? Are you helping the nurse who has a question? Okay, I just bought a dog. Can I transport my dog in the back of my car if I have this kind of contract for using that car, if it's personal use or professional use? She's not going to read a 20-page document that you can integrate. So it's, if you implement Lumapps, it's really a trigger to rethink what do they really need, in what context do they need it, do I have to cut it down in 20 pieces and forget about 15 of those and just publish those 5, because it will be enough? Do I have to make it visual instead of this long text that I have? Would it be better to put a video? So your internet will be better if you don't consider it as a migration. But it takes time. That's maybe another lesson learned, which I didn't put on the slideshow, that it takes an enormous amount of time of the people inside your company to be aware of what you're building, to take the time to feel comfortable, even if the tools are simple. It's not simple to manage information, and to think about Vanessa and Annie from administration and etc. To think in that kind of way. So it's not a free lunch. It takes a lot of effort and workload from your organization, but it's not a technology project. So it's not about managing information and people.
Where did you, maybe you explained it, but to make it clear, where do you manage who is accessing what information? Is it in groups, circle?
Well, it's in 2 parts. So the groups define your user groups. For example, I have managers. Imagine if I create a group where all people who are managing a team are in a group. So that's one part. Second step is you go into Lumapps. Imagine you create a couple of pages, and those pages are only destined for managers. And you say this page is visible only for this Google group. Or Google groups. Or I have a home page which is visible for everyone, but for the people who do the administration of the 28, 9 divisions, almost, for the 29 divisions, we want to add something extra on the homepage because those people manage the planning, so that their access to their planning file should be the top link. So we put an extra block there, and it's just visible for that group. Same page, small widget, which is only visible.
But we control everything in Google Groups, all groups.
You control the groups in Google. You can do it in Lumapps as well. You can manually create groups of users, also adding external users if you want. I can add your email address to our Yellow Cross site, put you in an admin group. So you can do that, but of course, if you're going G Suite, you want to manage your groups, your functional groups, etc., in Google admin, which is what it's meant to be. So you manage the groups there, then you manage your content and the visibility based on the rules in Lumapps.
Is there an easy possibility? For example, in our company, we have the G Suite users, but we also have many people in the company who are not having production on the production side, but they also want to access a wiki. But we want it all only be available in the company and not outside of the company for everyone. So how can you easily, on a domain level, somehow can you manage it, or?
You have the email addresses of those.
They don't have email addresses. They are machines and operators, but they want access to company information, but they don't have have a domain user, but not a Google account, because they're not working with the G Suite. But they want to access an intranet, and it's just an intranet. It should not be.
It should be public.
Yeah.
So
it's a zone in between public and in between the users. How do you do something like this?
I don't think we have an answer to that, but
there's I don't exactly know the details about it, but you have the blue collar Google licenses.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But then,
I was already informed about something like this, or working with one production user or something.
A local user? I don't know.
One user, yeah.
Can you make the site public? Can you make the site public?
You have to sign in.
Probably. So then you probably do the DNS within your company. So the DNS address only resolves.
Yeah.
It's not very safe.
No, it's still a bit tricky. Yeah.
That's how it works.
Don't do it. Other experience
Were there extra investments in smartphones? Maybe some extra data that the nurses had needed? No, because they have to be able to use it on the road. I imagine. Or?
They use tablets, but only on Wi-Fi.
Only Wi-Fi.
Only Wi-Fi, yes. And they use smartphones, and they have a data connection on.
Okay.
Something we talked about early on in the project, so it was difficult to estimate what would this mean for the bandwidth.
And the data use.
So we decided to wait and see if they use it now, will we bump into limit or not. Knowing that it's if you see the number of users, it's for Wiki like us, it's quite a large investment if you have to increase the mobile bandwidth. And I think the devices is something which is planned, but not for the near future to upgrade hardware. So it's all a matter of investment, of course. Which is one of the reasons why I talked about the weakest link in the chain and the fact that we detected, okay, the experience on tablet was not good at all. That we decided to create a separate page with a lot less widgets on it, just giving basic access to navigation, their shortcuts, but we left out some of the fun stuff we added on the desktop version. Increased the number of calls and the data that had to be touched.
And the whole project from like the ID, the preparation, gathering all the information, and then having the first version, first minimum viable product going live. How much time did it take?
So we, I think in December we did 2 weeks of analysis where I did interviews and we made a summary, so pain points, user profiles, and then we started the project I think at the end of March, April.
Yes, during vacation.
So need some time to start it. We set up technology design templates from April to July, beginning of July. Why? Because the organization needed a lot of time to create and write the content. We also did a number of training sessions because we had 40 or 45 people initially that we trained as content editor. So we were learning how to use the CMS system, but also learning how to write.
this, but how to write for a digital environment, how to make things short, how to make it visible, how to go from the 20-page car policy document to a 5 FAQ page, which is a switch in mindset. So then during the summer, people within different departments worked at their own pace on the different content. And we went live in September, 21st of September. So our initial goal was to go live before summer with a pilot. And we went live, we started a pilot in beginning of summer, which ran 2 months, in order to get feedback from 3 of those divisions. Where we used Google Forms to get feedback, but we also went, we physically went to watch them use it. So we sat in a small office and we asked them to look for some stuff on a tab. Okay, imagine your wife is pregnant and you want to take parental leave. When do you need to answer this at latest? What do you need to do? Ask at the reception? No. Try to find information on a tab, which is at that point where we saw that we really underestimated both the experience on the tablet and the ease with which people use technology in this kind of stuff. So that was the eye-opener. It was late. Timeline. So in theory, it's 3 months that we say for the implementation. But I think it depends on how ready your organization is. If they're familiar with their role, if they get time from their management to put into the content, because that's something we cannot do. We can help them. There's lots of work in the organization itself, but that's nothing to do with the technology. And then maybe another point that I didn't stress, we chose not to make a lot of promotion for the social part, communities, but focus on the first value that they get. So getting your information, getting answers, using the who is who, and not stress the fact too much that they now have to communicate and go social. Why? Because some people were reacting, okay, that's like Facebook in the company. I don't want Facebook. I just want my work stuff. Okay. Again, it differs per profile, but there were people who were really not very keen on going social with their colleagues. Why should I do that? Why should I like something? I don't want to share what I ate for lunch today with my colleagues. I don't know those people. It's like 20 kilometers from my division. So
share it on Instagram with the whole world, but not in the company.
so we chose to in the second stage, we did something that we're going to probably push a little bit more, promote this, so we can kill other channels, newsletters. Drinks?
Food.
Food, drinks, fresh air. Okay.
And then we're gonna get the Google Home. That is who's gonna be the winner of a piece. We're gonna do it over there. Yes.
Okay, so thanks again to Fourcast for receiving us, and yeah, everybody already knows it. It's time to eat.